want to talk about some of the supposed details that we're now hearing about the shooting at the Dallas ICE facility earlier today. There was reporting a few hours ago that a gunman opened fire on an unmarked ICE transport van that was carrying abducted immigrants. 3 immigrants and 0 American Gestapo ICE agents were shot. At the time I'm filming this, one of those immigrants has passed away and 2 others are in the hospital in critical condition. The gunman then turned his weapon on himself. Immediately, literally as the story is breaking, we are hearing conservatives from Fox News to, all of Trump's acolytes on Twitter posting about how they're sure this must be the radical left, right? This is targeting our ICE agents. I mean, we could talk about how incredibly irresponsible it is to put forth publicly a motive and to do what you can to stoke more political violence and division in this country. But of course, that's what we know the Trump regime is: irresponsible and malicious and doing what they can to divide this country and destroy American democracy. Right, this is precisely what we saw in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death, where Fox News, politicians on the right, Donald Trump himself, put forth a false narrative that the shooter must be on the radical left. When, again, just a couple of days ago, we had an update from the FBI and the DOJ that there is no evidence linking Tyler Robinson, who is the alleged shooter, to any group on the left. But that didn't stop Donald Trump and Republican politicians from shamelessly using Charlie Kirk's murder for their own political ends. Right before a suspect had been identified, Nancy Mace, who is deeply transphobic, made multiple statements that she was pretty sure that the shooter was going to be trans. And Kash Patel, the conspiracy theory nutjob podcaster who's now running the FBI, tweeted out that they had caught the shooter when they actually hadn't. We saw investigators and the governor of Utah releasing evidence, which, again, I don't know how that's not going to poison the jury pool, and then clearly not understand and misinterpret the evidence that they put out. And then, of course, let's not forget all of the supposed texts that were released that folks all over the political spectrum are like, these are sus. And we are seeing a replay of all of this behavior right now in the wake of this shooting in Dallas today. Immediately, right after it happened, the suspect had not been identified. We know nothing about his motive. J.D. Vance retweeted Kristi Noem's message saying this was an obsessive attack on law enforcement, particularly ICE, and it must stop. Again, the only victims in this case are immigrants, twice victimized, abducted, stuffed into vans, and then shot by this shooter. Now, Dallas's Mayor Eric Johnson urged the public to hold off on drawing any conclusions about the shooter and their motive. Even Senator Ted Cancun Cruz said that the violence needs to stop, and he warned Americans that divisive rhetoric has real consequences. It is the Republicans who are putting out divisive rhetoric. It is the Republicans who are fomenting political violence, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, who questioned on Twitter whether the shooter was a member of Antifa or had been brainwashed by Democrats. Conservative podcaster Benny Johnson blamed leftists for the violence. That's all according to Axios, because I don't twit, so I haven't read those tweets firsthand. And now we are hearing, again via tweet from FBI Director Kash Patel, that allegedly there were bullets found at the scene, and one of them had, in blue Sharpie, anti-ICE written on it.
Early evidence that we've seen.
You mean a tweet from Kash Patel?
Rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature.
Nope. So that is an exaggeration. The evidence we've seen from Kash Patel's tweet is that one bullet had blue Sharpie with the phrase anti-ICE written on it. So messages, plural, that doesn't match up with what we're hearing from other law enforcement sources.
Again, this is just the most recent example of this type of attack. This will be a whole of government response. While we're not releasing identities of any victims at this time, what I can confirm for you is no members of law enforcement were hurt during this attack.
Hey, Agent Rothrock, what do you mean this is just the most recent example of this kind of an attack? You don't have any evidence of what kind of an attack this is. And as far as I know, this is the first time that a sniper has targeted immigrants who'd been abducted by ICE. So what do you mean by that? Is there some kind of political message? Is there something that you're wanting people to take away from your little phrase there? Just want to remind folks really quickly that not only is the FBI run by Kash Patel, who is wholly incompetent, he's a conspiracy theory nut job, and the whole reason he was put in charge of the FBI was to get the Epstein files released, and now we know how that's going. We know that there's a big fat cover-up that he's participating in. We know that the FBI spent God knows how many hours and how many agents scribbling out Donald Trump's name from the Epstein files. But it's not just that Kash himself is unqualified. He also has spent a tremendous amount of time firing qualified FBI agents. He testified in front of Congress the other day that it would take 14 years to rehire everybody that he has fired. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino have conducted what is called a broad personnel purge, including veteran agents in high positions all around the country, including in Texas. So I just want to remind you, when we're seeing FBI agents who are giving press conferences now, Kash Patel has done his damnedest to fire the qualified members of the FBI, much like RFK Jr. has fired competent advisors, physicians from Health and Human Services and replaced them with wellness guru, grifter quacks. Kash Patel has also systematically undermined the efficacy, the functionality, and the integrity of the FBI. And this is where I think that, once again, we are seeing the regime overplaying their hand. We've already seen a backlash that has been created in the wake of Charlie Kirk's shooting, the way that the FBI is handling the investigation, how more and more people on the right are like, this doesn't feel like a truthful investigation. It feels like I'm being manipulated. It feels like there is a narrative the regime is pushing. It feels like there's more going on here. And I know Candace Owens and others have been spreading their own conspiracies about what they think happened to Charlie and who was behind it and how Tyler Robinson is a patsy, etc., etc. The integrity, the credibility of the FBI has been severely undermined. After all, they scribbled out Donald Trump's name from the Epstein files. After all, the good veteran members of the FBI have all been fired and replaced with loyalists to the regime. Not the most competent, qualified investigators, but loyalists. When we see shit like Kash Patel tweeting that there was a bullet found at the scene with Sharpie on it that said anti-ICE, and that is their evidence, like, it strains credibility, whatever shred of credibility the FBI has left. And I think the American people are really beginning to see it. Like, are you fucking insulting my intelligence right now? You expect me to believe what you're spinning and what you're putting forth? These are desperate attempts from a desperate, weak, and failing regime to create basically a war between working class Americans. This is meant to pit neighbor against neighbor, church congregant against church congregant, family member against family member. This is meant to divide this nation and get us fighting amongst ourselves, afraid of our neighbors. Absolutely, the regime is doing what they can to sow division, hysteria, political violence in this country. And I think it's something the American people are not going to have an appetite for. I think even conservatives, it's exhausting to be in a state of constant rage. It's exhausting to be told that you're supposed to hate your family members and you're supposed to hate your neighbors, especially when the people who are telling you that are presenting information to you that just seems like a little sus. I think all of this extreme rhetoric that we are seeing from Turning Point USA, from Fox News, from Donald Trump and the Republican Party, well, not the entire Republican Party, because we're seeing a number of GOP elected officials who are like, whoa, we need to stop this. Right? I think they can see that it's a bad scene, that it is a losing narrative. But from the folks that are continuing to push these lies that it's the radical left, the radical left who wants common sense gun reform and goes canvassing for signatures. I do think that this is going to backfire real hard on the regime. I think that it absolutely shows their desperation. They're pushing this narrative of political violence far too hard, and I don't think Americans are going to have an appetite for it. The regime is running out of plays, so they're trying to pit us against each other so that we don't pay attention to what they're doing, and I think it's not going to work. I think not only is it not going to work, but I think it's going to make people question what it is that they're supporting. Why are we doing this? Is this what we really want for the future of this country? Yeah, I don't know about you. I think it's going to backfire big time.